All right, guys, what's going on? We are here for the UFC Kansas City, Garry versus Prates. We're going to go over a couple of these fights. If you guys haven't watched the boxing breakdown for Eubank and Ben, please do so. It's either going to be up before, a little bit after, whatever. Just keep your eye out for it. Good breakdown for that fight. Great fight this weekend. All right, so we got a main event that is interesting, right? This was supposed to be Prates and Jeff Neal. Now we got Garry versus stepping in. And I got to be honest with you, I wasn't crazy about Garry. I didn't like his persona. I didn't like certain things about him, but the guy's there. Like, the guy comes, the guy fights, the guy accepts the fights. He takes the big fights. I was there when he fought Rachmanov, literally 10 rows back. And even though he lost that fight, he made Rachmanov look human. You know, he made him look human. He even against Michael Venom Page, the same thing. He finds ways to adjust no matter what style. I mean, there's no harder style to adjust to than a guy like Michael Venom Page. He found ways to adjust. He found ways to get his grappling going, his newfound grappling that he's very excited about. He's not only a striker anymore. He's got tricks in his bag that he kind of shows these new layers every fight, which is interesting to watch. It shows his growth. He's been traveling. So you got a lot of people talking crap about him. I was one of them back in the day. People called him a cuck because of his wife and this and that, and this. But the kid's a fighter. The kid's a good, talented fighter. And he's got an opportunity now to right that wrong against Rachmanov, even though it was a very respectable loss, still a loss. And here he is now fighting Carlos Prates, who is a surging fighter. And you got to wonder, like, how is this fight going to unravel? When you look at someone like Prates, who's got an extremely high percentage in landing, it's in the 70 percentile range. That's phenomenal. Very dynamic, good power, good striking, throws combinations together very, very well, ties his punches and kicks together very, very well. And then you got a guy in Garry who, as dynamic as he is and as clean of a striker as he is, I think he's the cleaner fighter. I think he's the more technical, more educated fighter. He is very hittable. So you got to wonder, like, where do the windows open up, for both fighters here? And I think that the one thing I do have a concern with is, and I know this sounds very rudimentary and it sounds kind of foolish, but at the end of the day, like, if you're going to have arguments and you're going to have, like, parliamentary procedures and stuff, you gotta like weigh both sides of everything. And one thing that concerns me a little bit is that Prates has not been long range. He's not been long distance. He's not been in a 5-round fight. He hasn't gone into the championship rounds. And the smoking is a little bit of a concern for me because I don't know what kind of smoker he is. There's one thing when you have a genetic predisposition to have great cardio, like a Machado. Like, that's just genetic to have that kind of conditioning. But a cigarette is a cigarette is a cigarette. And if you're smoking cigarettes, like, I don't care if Machado has the gas tank he has. If he was a cigarette smoker, he may still have good cardio because he's got ridiculous cardio, but he might not have that kind of cardio. So you got to wonder, like, what kind of smokers is Prates? Back in the day, there was a guy, Ricardo Mayorga. He was a boxer, and he used to go outside of the arena before the fights, and he used to let fans see him smoking a cigarette. Now, this is a guy who fought 12-round fights in boxing. If you watch some of the things that he's done, like when he was with it was just Shane Mosley in a press conference, and he lit a cigarette and he smoked a cigarette, and Mosley's wife bent over and he smacked his wife on the ass, and it was a big riot that broke out. If you watch that, he didn't inhale. He took a puff of the cigarette and he blew it. So you wonder, like, is this more entertainment? Is he really a smoker, or is it more like an entertainment thing? Like, maybe he smokes more. Prates, I don't know. There were situations where he's looking for cigarettes, or he has a pack of cigarettes on him, or, like, you got to wonder, is he a smoker? Because I don't care. Like, I know it sounds very juvenile to, like, even bring this up, but at the end of the day, if you're a serious athlete, athlete, look, how are you smoking cigarettes? So from a conditioning standpoint, not a technical standpoint, it has nothing to do with his technical, but from a conditioning standpoint, yeah, it's a little bit of a concern. I mean, because I don't know how deep he is. Is he a regular smoker? Does he smoke, a pack a week? I have no idea. But it's something that, you have to think about when it comes to a 5-round fight. And you got another guy from the other side of the cage who's not doing drugs, who's not drinking, who's not smoking, who's, traveling to different countries to train, who's working on his conditioning. Like, the little edges and flows in fighting are big. So I think when it comes down to it, I don't think this is going to be as an exciting fight as people think. Okay, I think this is going to be a fight where they're going to start on the feet. You're looking at two guys where, yeah, you look at Garry as a really good striker. You look at Prates, obviously, as a really good heavy-handed striker. But I think what's going to happen is I think Garry more and more is becoming a little more evolutionary in his grappling, and I think he's falling in love with it a little bit, which is usually the other way around. Usually the grapplers fall in love with their hands. And I could just see that from a boxing standpoint that I come from, that he's not committing so much. You could see he's looking. He's using his stand-up to try to look for things, where he's not really biting down. He's not digging, he's not digging his toes in the sand, looking to throw heavy hands. He's looking to kind of hit you for a reason to get inside. And I think that's what he's probably going to do in this fight. I think he eats a couple shots of Prates, and I think he's going to look to get his grappling going. I think he's going to tie him up on the cage. I think there could be a lot of cage lobbying in this fight. Prates generally has decent takedown defense. I don't know how successful he's going to be taking it down, but that could be all the more the reason why you can have a lot of cage hugging on this fight. So interesting fight. I hope it's not that way. I hope these guys decide to give us a little bit of a showcase. But I think what's going to win this fight ultimately is Garry's ability to switch things up, where Prates is going to look to kind of put his hands on him, land some big shots on him, possibly go for a knockout, where Garry's going to be more less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less intrigued to cross that void and get into a firefight with him. I think he's going to be more academic about this situation. I think ultimately Garry wins the fight, and probably not the greatest fight. Not that, I don't see this fight being super, oh my God, this is crazy. What a war. I think he's going to try to be as academic as possible. He's going to strike when he needs to strike. He's going to grapple when he needs to grapple. He's going to slow the things down when he needs to slow it down, when he feels like he's losing traction. And ultimately, what you want to do with a guy like Prates is you want to take him out of his rhythmic tempo, right? You don't want him to start tying things together. Once you see him tie things together, what do? You kind of lock him up. You push him against the cage. You take away his rhythm. You take away his tempo. Let him reset. So that's ultimately what I think Garry's approach is going to be, and I think he'll probably be successful doing it down the stretch. I think the first couple rounds are going to be extremely dangerous for Garry, extremely dangerous. But I think as the fight goes on, I think you're going to see Prates start slowing down a little bit. Garry's, confidence starting to build a little bit. Maybe he starts securing a takedown or two a little bit easier than he did in the first round, if he even gets one in the first or second round. But I think things are going to start unfolding a little easier for him down the stretch, and he's going to end out edging a win here. So I'm going to go Ian Garry to win this one. Taking nothing away from Prates, I think he's a great fighter. Next one, Anthony Smith versus Zhang Mingyang. Listen, I'd be very careful with this fight. When you look at this and you look at the dynamics of the UFC and the business as a whole, right? This is Anthony Smith's retirement fight. We all know that Anthony Smith has seen better days. We all know that Anthony Smith is nothing what he was once before, and we all know it's time for him to go. When you look at a guy like Zhang Mingyang and you look at his resume and you look how sparkly it looks, and it's first round finish, second round, first round, second round. But notice the pattern that this guy does not go deep into fights. His majority, 80% of his fights are all first round, like first round and done, or second round. But he's not a guy who's going into the third round, going into the fourth round. Like, he's never been in a fight. He's been in these barn burners that he's been able to bait you into a firefight and finish you, and that's what he wants. Anthony Smith isn't a guy that's going to meet you in the center of the cage like Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje and point to the center of the cage and say, meet me in the middle. He's never been that way. Even when he was younger, he wasn't that way. He's a guy who fights very academic. You want to talk about fighting academic? He's like more sitting back. He's looking to throw an elbow here. He'll engage with you when he needs to engage with you. He'll get out. He'll get in. He'll get out. But he's a very intelligent fighter. Anthony Smith is always a very, very intelligent fighter. But his problem as of late is he's just so inconsistent. You have no idea. There's situations where he will just fold. He'll look like he don't want to be in there. He's got really good grappling, and sometimes he just decides not to use it. So it's just the inconsistency with Smith. But in a fight like this, where you're looking at the UFC, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you putting him against this guy who on the line Vegas has him like as a minus 550? Why are you doing this in his retirement fight? Don't you think you should let this guy who's fought so long in the UFC, former title contender, an analyst for the UFC, don't you think you should let him go out on a high note? Like, don't you think? So people are looking at this going, my God, minus 550. Jesus, what are they doing to this guy? So there's two avenues that you could look at this. One avenue is that the UFC is saying, thank you, Anthony Smith, for your services. Be happy that you have an analyst job with us. But we're going to use you one last time because you're a good name to put on a future prospect, a Chinese prospect's resume. So we get to have Anthony Smith on this kid's resume with a win in his corner. So you service us, we're servicing you, and this is what it is. Or they see something that Vegas and a lot of people don't, where this kid is exposable. And that's the way I see it. I see there's no way this kid should be minus 550. I do think he's super dangerous. I do think that he has power. I do think he has the ability to shut your lights out and finish fights very quick. But the problem with that is that you need a dance partner. You need a willing dance partner that's going to engage in that. Anthony Smith's not a guy that's going to engage in that. And I think that what's going to happen in this fight, I could see a situation where Ming Yang comes out, balls to the wall, looks to finish Anthony Smith, looks to put his name on his highlight reel, and all of a sudden he finds himself in the second round and he's huffing and puffing a little bit, and Anthony Smith takes him down. And if Anthony Smith gets him to the ground, this won't even be a chess match. This will be chess and checkers. I think Anthony Smith is far and away the more fundamental, better grappler, smarter on the ground. Obviously, we know he's been there numerous times before. I think when things get really dirty in there, that's where Anthony Smith can take over this fight. And I think that if you're not motivated for this fight, if you're not motivated to go out on a W in your retirement fight, then, I could see if he had 3 fights left on his contract, we're like, all right, what Anthony Smith are we going to get? Is he running through his contract? What are we going to get here? This is his last fight. This is it. This is his retirement fight. There's no reason why he can't win this fight. If he can extract a little bit of the old Anthony Smith and just have the right game plan, like, I'm not going to get into a firefight with this guy. I'm going to take this fight to the ground. I'm going to grapple with this guy. I'm going to let this thing trickle. Maybe I'll lose it I'll let this thing trickle into the second round, maybe even the third round, and then just take over. I don't see where the minus 550 comes in. I think he should be the favorite. I think Ming Yang should be the favorite here, 1,000%. He's the prospect, the guy coming up, better optics right now, obviously far better optics. But I think this is a very winnable fight for Anthony Smith. I really do. And to put him on the co-main event, they're not doing this for Ming Yang. They're not putting him on the co-main event because Ming Yang. They're putting it because this is Anthony Smith's retirement fight. So being a co-main event, Anthony Smith's retirement fight, kind of read in between the lines a little bit. So I think they want him to go out. I think he deserves the co-main event spot. He is the A side of this fight. I'm going to go with him. I'm going to take a little shot on Anthony Smith here to get this one done in a big upset. All right, before we get to the next one, we're going to come in with Mackenzie's dog pick of the week.
What's up, guys? Giga is getting up there in age, and he's definitely gone through the wheel in the UFC umbrella. However, he has shown no indication of slowing down or loss of explosion. Onama is young, athletic, and has decent grappling and a wrestling game if he wants to use it. But it's not first on his list, and getting inside on Giga is definitely going to be a task. So give me Giga at plus 150.
All right, next fight we got Giga Chikadze versus David Onama. Really good fight. This is really going to boil down to how Onama approaches this fight. He's got the wrestling ability. He's got the grappling ability to take this fight to the ground and expose a really big hole in Giga's game, which is obviously his grappling. But if you look at Onama, he's not a guy who looks to do it all the time. He knows he's got power. He's been pretty resilient in the past. He's got a little fight streak going, a little win streak going right now. And Giga has seen better days. Like, Giga has been kind of up and down as of late, but Giga's still nasty on the feet. Still got nasty calf kicks. Still got nasty torque in his hands. Good movement. Very sharp hands. Power on both sides. Very dangerous guy. So if Onama decides to stand with him for 3 rounds, you're looking at a knockout. You're looking at 30-27 for Giga. I think Onama's good on the feet. I think Onama has power on the feet, but if you're looking at the bones and the nuts and bolts of the striking pedigree and credentials, anyone who says Onama's a better striker, pure striker than Giga, I think needs their head examined. I think we know that Giga's a better striker. Where Onama wins this fight is if he takes this fight to the ground and he commits himself to his wrestling and commits himself to just grounding this fight when he needs to ground this fight. I'm not saying don't stand on the feet. I'm not saying don't test your chops. I'm not saying don't try to hit him with some power and see if you can shut his lights out. But what I'm saying is when it's time to switch it off and go to your wrestling, I think that's what you got to do. Even if it's a close round and there's 2 minutes left in a round or a minute and a half left in a round, take a shot, get on top of him, win the round. I just don't know if that's the game plan that's going to that's going to be. I'm really torn on this fight. I'll be honest with you. I'm super, super torn on this fight. Because Giga also hasn't been around in a little while. And you got to wonder, like, is he working on his takedown defense? Did he adjust anything in the over a year that in the year that he hasn't fought? I don't know. So there's a lot of what ifs here. I mean, it's a fight that I don't want no part of. I'm not going to slice this thing at all. I'm going to have no action on this. But, I mean, I'll give a little lean towards Giga. You know what I mean? I just think the speed, the movement, the athletic ability, the precision striking, and I'm just not uber confident that Onama is going to just implore this wrestling-heavy game plan. But if he does, he wins the fight. So close fight. Very, very tricky fight to call. If you do bet it and you hit, congratulations to you. I mean, I think that's a dart throw, though, so I would be very careful. All right, then the next fight we're going to break down, we're going to do two more fights. We'll do Michel Pieta versus Abus Magomedov. Don't get this twisted, guys. Magomedov is not Magomedov. Like, you guys, every time somebody hears the name Magomedov, they're almost like this guy's a fucking gold medalist in wrestling and grappling. It's not the case. Is he a good grappler? Yes. Okay. He's okay. Is he a sufficient wrestler? He's okay. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He's fine. But he's not a Khabib, or he's not a Makhachev, or he's not one of these guys that are Dagestani handcuffing you, lacing your legs. He's not that type of guy. He will implore his wrestling. He will take you down. He will get top control. But he's not this animal on the feet, on the ground, where you just can't get up. Like once, oh my God, he got me down. I can't get up. It's not his style. On the other side, you got Michel Pieta, who, believe it or not, is the younger guy, which is kind of crazy. He's only 31 years old. He's a younger guy. Abus Magomedov is 34. Michel Pieta, on the other hand, he's a freak athlete. He's very big for the division. He's got really good hands. He's got decent grappling, a very explosive, good power. And anytime I break down his fights, I always tell you guys, I always bring up his fight against Tristan Connolly, right? When he fought Tristan Connolly back in the day, he was really drinking his own juice. And he was the biggest favorite on the card. And Tristan Connolly was the biggest dog, obviously, on the card. And he lost that fight. And he should have never lost that fight, because if he fights Tristan Connolly again 10 times out of 10, he wins the fight. But he was showboating too much. He was doing backflips. He wasn't there. And I think really quick it humbled him. And I said this humbled him. This showed him, like, listen, on any given Saturday night, if I don't take this seriously, any guy can beat me. These guys are here for a fucking reason. So then he fights Diego Sanchez and he gets a DQ. So that's 2 losses. Since then, he went on an 8-fight win streak. And he started just tearing through guys. And he looked like a different guy. And I really do believe the reason why that happened was because of that Tristan Connolly loss. I really do. I believe, like, he just hit a switch and said, look, I can be chaos, but I got to fight in a controlled chaos. I can't fight in a neophyte kind of unwired, unchained, unlayered chaos. I gotta have some kind of controlled stability when I fight like this. He's got my birthday, by the way. Me and him are both October 6th. So now, fast forward 9 fights, and he loses by a bludgeoning to Fluffy Hernandez. And you're saying to yourself, well, it wasn't even a fight. Like, Fluffy just dismantled him for 5 rounds until he finished him in the 5th. And I agree, and I was shocked. I shocked that he lost like that. I figured, he absolutely can. Fluffy can beat him. Fluffy can smother anybody out. But I was shocked that he lost like that. Like, he literally was just, like, giving things to him. And it was a sweep. And it was just a diabolical run-through. But look how well that fight aged. Look how good Fluffy Hernandez is fighting. I mean, he does this to the majority of people. He's got great cardio. He's got smothering wrestling. That's not Abus's game. That's not who he is. He's not a guy who's going to just smother you with wrestling. Now, go back to the Tristan Connolly fight. This is my point. The point is that fight humbled him. That made him realize, look, yes, I can lose. On any given night, I can lose. He was embarrassed in his last fight. And I think certain fighters need that reset button. And I think that fight gave him a reset button. Maybe if he would have lost a split decision or a close decision or something like that, maybe it wouldn't hit the reset button. But to know he got embarrassed the way he got embarrassed, because that was embarrassing for him. I think that hit a reset button, and I think he's going to come in here, and I think he's going to tear through Magomedov. I think it's going to be a good fight until it's not anymore. I think it's just going to be a clear situation where you're like, if it goes to the cards, you're like, yeah, Michel Pieta won this fight. And I think this reset button's a good thing for him. And I get it. People are looking at the takedowns and saying Magomedov's going to get on top of him and control him like Fluffy did. Not the same guy, but I could see why. I could justify you for thinking that. But I just think that reset button, you're going to see a really dialed in, serious, ready to go Michel Pieta, and I like him to win this fight. All right, and then we're going to break down another one. We're going to do we'll do Randy Brown and Nicholas Dalby. Look, I'm a Randy Brown guy. I know his coach pretty well. We've called fights at Ring of Combat together. Matt Cully, super nice guy over at Budokan in New York. Really nice guy. He's been with Randy Brown for a really long time. I think they're going to have the right game plan. I think the game plan for Nicholas Dalby is you got to utilize your length. You got to utilize your attributes. And when God gives you the gifts of the gift of length and range, you got to know how to utilize it. You got to learn how to manipulate your game towards that God-given gift that you have. You can't make your arms any longer or your legs any longer. So if you have them, use them. You know, that was one thing about me. I had very long limbs. So when I was in my grappling phase and I was grappling a lot, I had long legs and I had long arms and I was able to, get into certain spots that other heavyweights weren't able to get into. And the same thing with boxing. I was able to utilize my range very well because I had a pretty decently long reach. So when you have it, you got to recognize that you have it and use it. And I think that's what you got to do to Dalby. You got to keep it clean. You don't want it to be dirty. You don't want to get into a phone booth with this guy because this is how this guy makes his money. He makes it dirty. He's got great conditioning. He's going to try to get inside on you. He's going to try to disrupt you. He's a very good disruptor. And I think that ultimately could be a problem for Randy Brown because sometimes he does unravel in there. But I don't think he's going to have enough time to make the adjustment to really start getting in. I think Randy Brown wins this fight. I don't think he gets him out of there. I will tell you one thing, though. There is a wager the other way that I'm thinking about doing on this fight. And if you guys want that, go to the MadLabMMA.com. I'm going to have full DFS, full wagers, blueprint for boxing and MMA. We got the Discord. We got the live stream that we do right before the fight that I break down every fight after the weigh-ins and everything like that. So definitely come over and check us out. Now's the time to do it. We're going to go on a long run this summer, and we'd love to have you. But back to this fight. So the Randy Brown, I just think it's going to be the range. I think if he has the right game plan, he has the right blueprint, he's going to be too rangy for Dalby, too technical for Dalby, and Dalby's going to find himself not so much swinging at air, but he's going to find himself, he just can't track him down. He can't hunt him down fully for 15 minutes. I think Randy Brown probably wins the decision. So the card's a great card, guys. We're going to have a lot of fun this week, a lot of fun. And we got a lot of good boxing coming up. We have the 3 fights coming up in a couple weeks, which is Teofimo Lopez against Barboza. Devin Haney is fighting. You have Raleigh Romero fighting Garcia. We have just a ton of style. And nobody's breaking down boxing. We are the only company that breaks down boxing. So we got boxing, we got MMA, we got myself and Tam's doing some NBA stuff in there too. Come and check us out. You won't be disappointed. We give more content than everybody, bar none. So whether you agree with my picks, we have the Fight Brain in there that literally does all the AI style, data metrics and historical breakdowns, and then ultimately gives you their prediction, which slays it week in and week out. You got my predictions that you could weigh against it, your own predictions. We have algorithms and projections and ownerships and everything you need. We have it right here. So come to madlabmma.com, and I will talk to you soon.